Nia had been looking forward to Valentine's Day with Dele for weeks. They had been dating for several months, and Nia was eager to celebrate with him in Festac, Lagos. As she stepped out of the taxi, she could feel the excitement building. Little did she know, this was no ordinary Valentine's Day. While Dele greeted her with a warm hug and smile, something about his demeanor seemed a little off. She brushed it off, thinking maybe it was just nerves, but as they entered the apartment, she had no idea what was lurking in the shadows of Dele's mind. Nia and Dele settled into the living room, talking about their day and the plans they had made. Dele appeared to be on edge, but Nia attributed it to his hectic work schedule. As they laughed and joked, she didn't suspect anything out of the ordinary. Dele served her dinner, and they spent hours chatting about their relationship, future plans, and personal stories. There was a slight tension in the air, but Nia just assumed it was the excitement of the night. As they continued their conversation, Dele's phone buzzed. Without a second thought, he picked up the call. "Hello, sir," he said, his voice professional, but his body language immediately stiffened. Nia continued to talk to him, but he barely seemed to hear her. She noticed the change in his attitude, his focus shifting entirely to the phone conversation. She thought it was strange but decided to let it go, believing it was just a work matter. Dele spoke quietly, almost as if he were whispering, though Nia could still hear bits of the conversation. The tone in his voice was unfamiliar, nervous, almost panicked. Nia raised an eyebrow, sensing something wasn't quite right. Dele had always been calm and composed. As he muttered something about ritual items, Nia's heart skipped a beat. Was this some kind of joke, or was he hiding something? She kept her thoughts to herself but couldn't shake the unease creeping in. As the call dragged on, Nia began to grow uncomfortable. Her instinct told her something was wrong. She decided to voice her concerns. "Is everything alright?" she asked, trying to mask the nervousness in her voice. Dele glanced at her briefly, then back at the phone, still whispering. Without thinking, he muttered, "Do you tell anyone where you are?" Nia was taken aback by the sudden question. "I told Ada, and my brother," she responded casually, unsure of why he would ask. His face immediately dropped. He told her to walk out and go home. Dele's expression darkened as he listened intently to the voice on the other end of the line. "I told her to leave, but she's still here," he whispered, his frustration palpable. Nia stared at him, unsure of what was going on. His body language shifted, and she could feel the tension in the room rise. She laughed nervously, hoping it was just some misunderstanding, but Dele was no longer the man she thought she knew. His focus had shifted entirely, and the warmth in his eyes had disappeared. Dele finally hung up the phone. The moment he did, he turned to Nia with a cold, distant expression. "I have to go out," he said abruptly. "Get out of my room. Now." Nia's heart raced, her body tense with confusion. "What's going on, Dele?" she asked, her voice trembling. Dele didn't respond immediately, his back to her as he paced the room. "You won't survive the night if you stay here," he muttered under his breath, his words making Nia's blood run cold. Nia stood frozen, unable to process what she was hearing. Her mind raced as she tried to make sense of his words. "What do you mean, Dele? What's happening?" she pleaded. He turned to her, eyes narrowed. "I'm not going to risk it," he said coldly. Nia realized that she wasn't just dealing with a betrayal, she was in grave danger. The man she had trusted for months was no longer the same person. Something dark was at play, and she needed to escape. Nia's mind went into overdrive. She quickly gathered her things, her hands shaking. "I have to go, Dele," she said urgently. "I don't know what's going on, but I'm not staying here." Dele didn't say anything, just continued to stand there, as if waiting for her to leave. The atmosphere in the room felt suffocating, and she knew she had to act fast. The weight of the situation hung heavy in the air, and Nia's instincts told her she wasn't safe. Just as Nia was about to leave, she remembered her brother, Emeka, and her best friend, Ada. She quickly called Ada, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ada, I need help. Something's wrong. Dele, he's planning something bad." Ada's voice was urgent on the other end. "Get out of there, Nia. I'll call Emeka." Nia didn't wait for another second. She rushed out of Dele's apartment, hoping to escape before it was too late. Nia hurried down the stairs, her heart racing. She kept her phone close, glancing at the screen to see if Ada or Emeka had called back. The street outside seemed eerily quiet, and Nia couldn't shake the feeling that Dele was watching her every move. As she walked faster, she thought she heard footsteps behind her. She turned around, but the street was empty. A sense of dread settled in, but she pushed it aside and focused on getting to safety. Nia made her way to a nearby cafe, hoping to find a safe place to wait for Ada and Emeka. She couldn't understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. Her mind raced as she replayed the night in her head, trying to piece together the clues that had led her to this moment. Had she missed any signs? Was there something she could have done differently? She couldn't shake the image of Dele's cold expression when he told her to leave. Back at her apartment, Ada was pacing nervously. She had just spoken to Emeka, who was on his way to find Nia. Ada knew something was terribly wrong. "I don't care what he says, Nia's not safe. Dele's up to something, I'm sure of it," she muttered. Emeka, who had always been protective of his sister, nodded grimly. "I will track her and we'll find her. I won't let anything happen to her." Meanwhile, Dele sat in his apartment, fuming with anger. His plans had been interrupted, and he couldn't believe Nia had betrayed him by telling her brother and friend where she was. He dialed his boss's number again, his voice tight with frustration. "She's gone," he said, his voice low. "I need another girl. Now." His boss's voice on the other end of the line was cold and matter-of-fact. "Find her. We'll make it work." Nia spent the next few hours in the cafe, her nerves on edge. She kept checking her phone, waiting for any updates from Ada or Emeka. Each passing minute felt like an eternity. Finally, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Emeka: "Stay put, we are on our way." Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. She knew Dele wouldn't let her go that easily. As Nia sat in the cafe, trying to steady her breath, she saw a figure standing outside the window. Her heart skipped a beat. It was Dele. He had found her. She quickly ducked under the table, praying he hadn't seen her. Her phone buzzed again. It was Ada. "Get out of there now. Dele's not far behind." Nia ran out of the cafe, trying to blend in with the crowd. Her mind was racing, but her instincts told her to keep moving. As she turned a corner, she nearly collided with Emeka. His eyes were wide with concern, but relief flooded his face when he saw her. "You're safe now, Nia," he said, his voice shaking. Ada was right behind him. Together, they quickly made their way to a nearby car. Ada pulled out her phone and dialed the police. "We need help. My friend is in danger. Dele is involved in something illegal, and he's trying to hurt her." The operator on the other end assured her that help was on the way. Nia, still shaken, looked at her brother and best friend. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered, overwhelmed by the support. As the police arrived and began questioning Nia, Dele's whereabouts were still unknown. Nia's mind raced as she tried to remember any other clues that could lead them to him. She thought about the things he had said, the phone call, the mention of a ritual item. It was starting to make sense, but she still didn't understand why he had targeted her. The police took Nia's statement and promised to investigate further. Dele's plans had started to fall apart. The police were closing in, and he had no way of escaping the situation. As the investigation into the ritual plot deepened, more details about his involvement with the criminal network came to light. His boss was arrested, and Dele found himself caught in the web of his own deceit. The walls were closing in, and Nia's bravery had made it all unravel. Dele was arrested in the dead of night, his future uncertain. Nia could finally breathe a little easier, knowing that he would never be able to harm her again. The police uncovered his connections to a wider network of ritual killers, and it became clear that his plot had been far more elaborate than she had imagined. In the weeks that followed, Nia began the process of healing. With the support of her family and friends, she found the strength to move forward. She didn't let the past define her, but she was forever changed by the experience. She became more cautious, more aware of the people around her. The incident had taught her the importance of trust and vigilance. Nia started a new chapter in her life, focusing on her career and personal growth. She kept in touch with Ada and Emeka, grateful for their unwavering support. Though the scars of that Valentine's Day would remain, Nia had found the courage to rebuild and move on. Her life had been forever altered, but she was determined to never forget the lessons she had learned. The experience had been harrowing, but it brought Nia closer to the people who mattered most in her life. She realized how important it was to keep her loved ones informed of her whereabouts, and she made a promise to herself to never take her safety for granted again. Trust was essential, but so was awareness. Nia's journey to rebuilding trust was not an easy one. She struggled with opening up to others and trusting people again. However, through time and therapy, she learned to navigate the complexities of relationships, both romantic and platonic. As time passed, Nia became stronger, more independent, and more focused on her goals. She embraced her future with confidence, no longer weighed down by the events of that dreadful night. She was determined to live her life on her own terms. Months later, Nia ran into someone from her past, a man who had once been a potential love interest but was now just a reminder of a simpler time. He approached her cautiously, unsure if she would even remember him. Their conversation was short, but it left Nia with a sense of closure. Though Nia would never forget what happened with Dele, she had learned the power of forgiveness. It wasn't for Dele or his actions, but for herself. Forgiveness was a way to free her from the chains of the past and embrace her future. Nia's life took an unexpected turn, and with every step, she grew stronger. She pursued her dreams and made new connections with people who valued her. She learned to recognize the importance of surrounding herself with trustworthy people and always keeping an eye on her safety. The lessons Nia had learned from that fateful Valentine's Day never left her. They became a part of her story, a story of survival, courage, and strength. As she moved forward in life, she knew that she was more than the girl who had been deceived by a man. She was a woman who had found her own power.